Hi, friends. Welcome into the new home for CBS News 24/7. I'm Reed Cowan. So you see these monitors behind me? Every one of them bringing me stories from a world away and in the United States, many of them streaming from these monitors directly to the palm of your hand. Top of mind right now. Breaking news of a plane crash in Dallas. We've also got word of a train derailment in Chicago. Take this to the bank and count on us every day streaming. If it's new, if it's now, we've got it for you. Let's go. All right, so I'm watching these network video monitors right now, and they're taking us to Texas right up the top. We've got breaking news. Here's your headline at this hour. A plane crash north of Dallas. That plane going down near the McKinney National Airport. Our CBS partners in Dallas on the air right now, updating viewers, and this is what they had to say moments ago. Let's listen.
We have got some breaking news to tell you about. The McKinney Police Department has confirmed that a small plane has gone down near County Road 317 and the McKinney National Airport. The investigation is just starting. We understand this happened just a few minutes ago. What we're talking about is that red thing right there in the middle of your screen. That is the plane that we're talking about. It appears to have gone down or ditched in an area. Not really sure what this is in McKinney, but it might be some sort of a construction area. The Department of Public Safety is handling all media inquiries in this investigation until it's transferred, I should say, to the FAA. We are continuing to follow this.
So whatever took it down, obviously such a force that plane split into. You see it right there, smack dab in the middle of that pile of dirt or sand. And you see right there the tail end of that plane. It is separated from the front of the plane. Now, we know when things like this happen, it's a people story. We do not know about the passengers on that plane. We're going to revisit this story throughout the hour. We will always go back to breaking news that we bring you to keep you updated as details come into us. All right, so now to a big debate tonight between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump. We have crews and cameras all over the country for reaction to what's expected to be a fiery and first debate. So let's go live to Atlanta to talk to CBS News campaign reporters Olivia Rinaldi and Aaron Navarro. Let's start with you, Aaron, covering the Biden camp. Mr. Biden has been with his advisors and debate prep team for days. This we know. Do you think he's ready? And how will he differentiate?
I want to start with the news today. Biden campaign officials tell CBS that following the Supreme Court ruling related to emergency abortions in Idaho, we're going to see President Biden lean even more into the abortion issue tonight with former President Trump. The campaign has been putting ads out. They're going to be airing an ad related to abortion later tonight during the actual debate. Now, in terms of preparation, we know that President Biden has been in Camp David for at least the last 6 days with senior White House and campaign officials, starting at first with informal policy discussions and then going into mock debates where we know his personal lawyer is playing the role of Donald Trump as he did in 2020.
All right, these debate preps, really, they run it and run it over again. Let's now talk to you, Olivia. We have seen that former President Donald Trump has been on the stump for votes in recent days. Some people wondering if he's spending the same amount of time prepping or if he's going to be the off-the-cuff debater, so to speak. What are you hearing from the Trump campaign?
Well, Reed, I can tell you that it's a far different approach that Trump is taking to this debate than President Biden. As Aaron noted, President Biden was up at Camp David holding these very formal discussions, these mock debates. Trump wasn't doing that. Trump is having these informal policy discussions with aides and allies, often calling people close to him and asking them what he thinks they should really talk about, and to give a little bit of insight to what Trump is thinking today, we've already seen him posting on Truth Social, his social media platform, about things like immigration and democracy. Something that Biden desperately wants to bring to the table to talk to Trump about is democracy. And we know Trump is going to make the argument and say, look, Joe Biden is the threat to democracy. Now, there's a lot up for debate there, but especially on immigration, we can expect Trump to talk about that time and time again. And allies that I've spoken to of the former president tell me that that's part of the approach that they're focused on tonight, is that Trump should be presidential. It should be talking about his record in contrast to Biden. They're trying to make it less about personalities, more about substance. So we'll be watching to see if that's actually what ends up being spoken about tonight, Reed.
The headlines will be interesting. We know our CBS polling shows that a lot of Republicans are hoping that former President Donald Trump does appear restrained and presidential. We'll be watching. And this is our commitment to you. CBS News has you covered for that debate tonight. Our coverage begins at 8 o'clock Eastern. We also have a debate simulcast at 9. Well, you know what's certain to be a talker tonight, and they talked about this just a moment ago. Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump will be squaring off on the issue of abortion, and that's because we have breaking news about the high court's ruling on an Idaho abortion case. So CBS News campaign reporter and attorney Katrina Kaufman joins us now live outside the Supreme Court. So, Katrina, let's really set the stage here. We kind of had a preview yesterday when the court posted an accidental draft review of this decision. Fast forward to today. Now it's official. We have our eyes on it. It is the law of the land. But let's really focus down on the people. What's the significance of this ruling to a mother in Boise or a mother in Twin Falls or Pocatello, Idaho, who needs an abortion because her life is at risk?
So if a woman's health is at risk in Idaho, she now will be able to access an abortion in an emergency situation at a hospital under this federal law, EMTALA. So in the short term, this is a win for those abortion rights. But really, this is only a temporary reprieve. This is still a very precarious position for the women and the doctors of Idaho to be in, because the Idaho near total ban on abortion makes it a felony for doctors to perform abortions in that state under that law. And now it's going back to the lower courts. Essentially, the Supreme Court decided that they took it too early, and they're sending it back down. And there's a chance that this could go back to the Supreme Court or just move forward under a very different administration after November. If Donald Trump is reelected into the White House, he could dismiss this case altogether or potentially have the administration interpret EMTALA in a new way.
Fascinating. And, you know, we have heard some tones from Donald Trump's campaign that if he wins, he wants to send this to the states. And it really does speak to states' rights. A lot of people saying that this Idaho ruling could influence how abortion is handled on the state level. We'll have to watch that. But we also know we're waiting on other big decisions that could be coming out, not the least of which the question of presidential immunity as it relates to the January 6th insurrection. Justice is not ruling on this yet, but we know it's coming.
This is a really big case that we're all watching out for because it's so consequential for the presidency, for democracy. The Supreme Court is making a decision about whether the president is immune from criminal prosecution. And in the immediate term, it will implicate whether or not the D.C. election interference case against Donald Trump can move forward and in what form.
It's always great to talk to you because not only are you a journalist, but you are also an attorney. Breaking news out of the state of Florida as it pertains to Judge Cannon and rulings in other Trump cases. What's your reaction to that?
So I just spent 3 days in hearings with Judge Cannon in Florida, and we heard arguments on a number of issues, but there was one part of it that was actually sealed behind closed doors, and specifically that Trump wants notes and testimony that came from his former attorney, Evan Corcoran, excluded as evidence from the trial. And this is really crucial evidence for special counsel Jack Smith's team. Judge Cannon has decided that she wants to have a hearing to see whether or not this evidence falls under the crime fraud section, which would allow it in, despite the fact that it was from communications between Donald Trump and his attorney. And this issue was actually already resolved in the D.C. federal courts, but Judge Cannon wants to make her own determination and assessment of it now.
All right, fascinating. Katrina Kaufman, I hope you have your running shoes on because we know you are, at least in your mind, running between the Supreme Court there in our nation's capital and the state of Florida to keep us updated and informed. Thank you so much for helping aid our understanding. Thank you very much. All right, so the last several days, our video monitors have consistently given us glimpses of two major news events and really tragedies, floods and fires in the United States. So let's go to the Midwest now, and reporter Jonah Kaplan, he is in South Dakota. Jonah, homes destroyed and businesses destroyed, this we know. We see right behind you crops underwater. And that really leads us to what I think is a masterclass at this hour for the rest of the country who may not really think or have it landed in their minds how crucial the Midwest is to our nation's food supply.
Right, Reed, you don't have to have furniture or other things lying around for it to be property damage. This right here, this would be soybeans. And all of this is not just what feeds Americans, but it really feeds an American economy. It's an economic ecosystem. And when you take out a crop like this, or corn, it's not just food. We're talking about so many other products, whether it's soap and household cleaners, paint and car seats. And then you have the other ancillary businesses that trucking and transportation and distribution and packaging and then grocery stores. I mean, all of this is connected, and the floods have completely wiped out the vast majority of these, I mean, thousands of acres. We spoke with one family here in Jefferson, South Dakota. Collectively, they have nearly 3,000 acres, soybeans, corn. Planting season started in April. It's gone, and there's no going back.
And we know farmers, they start planting their crops even when the snow is on the ground. You say there's no going back. Any help for the farmers?
So they do have some crop insurance, and that is important to them. Obviously, they've dealt with droughts, and now they've dealt with floods. This isn't the first one, but one of the most extreme, they tell us. But crop insurance, they say, and they warn, only goes so far, especially when they've already invested so much. Fuel, fertilizer, the seed, not to mention the time and labor. Again, they're not getting this back. The next time they're going to hopefully have a yield would be spring of 2025.
Crop insurance, at least a bit of a boon for farmers, but not for our nation's food supply. Jonah, what an important perspective. Please give our best to the people you talk to every day there in Jefferson, South Dakota and beyond. Thank you so much. And let's bring in Jessica Birch. She's our meteorologist. She's been watching the flood waters rise in the Midwest. Jessica, it's a tragedy there for those farmers.
It truly is, and we know that he's out there in South Dakota right now. We're also keeping a very close eye on areas throughout the Midwest like Iowa, where they're dealing with extreme flooding right now, and they're gearing up for the next storm that's to come that comes at such an inconvenient time while many boots are on the ground already trying to battle flooding conditions in those local communities. That storm system's building its way in right now, so let's take a look at it. Within the past 12 hours, we've seen heavy storms move throughout the Dakotas, throughout Nebraska as well, and just northern portions of Kansas, and that's going to cause a lot of issues in the next coming states just within the next 12 hours. Now, the Storm Prediction Center, they're showing severe weather outlooks at an enhanced level already all throughout the Dakotas, and we're continuing to watch those storms build to the east as we head into the next coming days. Watch this right here. From this morning all the way into this afternoon, those storms sweep throughout Iowa, already dealing with heavy flooding conditions right now in the Missouri, the Sioux, and the Mississippi River. Those storms continue to sweep off into Illinois into the overnight hours. Here we go all the way into Friday. A similar trend. Those pop-up storms really happen a lot more into the afternoon hours, and that's what we're concerned about. Now, the National Weather Service has issued flood watches and warnings. This has been in effect all week long. This is the big weather story for us right now. In the Missouri River and the Mississippi River, flood warnings are still in effect, and we are going to keep a close eye on that as those storms sweep throughout that region heading into the coming days. We'll have more on that in a bit. For now, over to Brittany Rainey with more on the heat down in Texas.
Thanks, Jessica. We definitely are looking at a string of very hot temperatures. I mean, look at this. We are going to have triple digits right through the weekend. Today, we're looking at a high around 99 degrees, but we have to factor in that humidity. And unfortunately, that's what's making us feel close to 110 degrees. Right through Saturday. On Sunday, it'll feel close to 109 degrees. And we've had heat advisories issued throughout the area since Monday, and they have had to extend them day by day right through our Thursday because we're continuing to see those feels like temperatures around 110 degrees, and we're likely going to see it extended into our Friday, Saturday, and even into Sunday. And it's not just the afternoons that are so hot, it's also the mornings as well. Yesterday morning we had a record warm morning. We only made it down to 82 degrees, tying the record from last year. So we're seeing triple digits in the afternoons, but our mornings are starting off in the lower 80s, and that's how it's going to stay as we head through the middle of next week. And it's all because of this heat dome. We had one area of high pressure just off to our west, but we're seeing another one developing over the southeast, and this is going to build right over Texas this weekend before it starts to retreat back over the southeast. So it's not just us that's going to be dealing with the sweltering heat. It's also going to be all the way down into Florida and much of the southeast. And even looking further out, we are expecting above normal temperatures for the southeast through July 7th and even through the middle of July. Jessica.
We're going to listen in to CBS News Chicago. You are seeing a train derailment in Matteson, Illinois. Let's listen in to the coverage from CBS News Chicago. All right, so not hearing that right now, but here's what we know. This is just south of Chicago. No injuries here, but there are evacuations. Residents who live in this area, they are being told to get away from this train derailment. Now, keep in mind, as you look at these live images coming in from a helicopter right now from our partners in Chicago at our CBS station there, you can see trains have stopped. But when we pull out, you're going to also see a body of water not far from there. So you can see the first of several first responders. They're walking the tracks. They're seeing what remains. But then over to the right there from our helicopter view, you can see tank after tank after tank. They're not supposed to be on their side, folks. They are supposed to be on the train tracks and moving somewhere in the United States. So once again, a train derailment, Matteson, Illinois, and we'll come back to this as we need throughout this broadcast. Coast to coast and worldwide, you are watching CBS News 24/7. We're back in just a moment. All right, we want to come back to that breaking news out of Matteson, Illinois. When we see breaking news on our video feeds, we bring it to you in real time. And look at that. Matteson, Illinois, this is a neighborhood just south of Chicago, and a train derailment. Now, what we're understanding is this is a populated area. It's being called online and on social media a village community, so not hugely populated, but enough people that they are saying to people to get out. Now, what's done is done, as you're seeing from these chopper images. We've also seen a lot of video out there and photographs online and elsewhere of the train cars just twisted and off to the side of the tracks. That has caused, by many outlets are reporting at this hour, a leak investigation. Now, we don't know what was inside the train at the time of the derailment, but we know it was something that caused emergency officials to go door to door and tell people who live amongst these trees that the tracks cut through to get out. So once again, those live images, and you can just see those cars off to the left, off to the right, and what looks to be just the axles of those cars also. So who knows what caused this to topple over, but evacuations are underway. Officials saying they have concerns about a possible leak. Matteson, Illinois, train derailment. We're going to come back to this as soon as we get more information. Our CBS partners had that chopper up in the air. We're there for you. When we see it, you see it immediately. We're also watching moves by our nation's transportation bosses right now. Word that the NTSB sanctioned airline manufacturer Boeing today. Why? Well, Boeing's disclosure of non-public details to the press amid ongoing investigations into that January 5th Alaska Airlines mid-air emergency. You remember that one where the door panel blew out, terrified a lot of passengers mid-flight. Well, the NTSB not happy about that disclosure. They're saying it blatantly violated that agency's investigative regulations by giving the information to the media. Their feeling? This caused a lot of speculation about the causes of this Alaska case. They were still investigating. So what's the teeth to the sanction? Well, Boeing will no longer have access to information that the agency produces during this review process. Boeing doesn't like that. They say this essentially denies them the chance to ask questions of participants at a hearing that is set for later this summer. You can bet we will be at that hearing, and we'll keep you posted. Hey, our CBS teams in Houston, Texas have an eye today on what is a community coming together following a tragedy. Just taking a moment to think about what this is like for the family of 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungare. Today's her funeral. Her body discovered in a creek after Jocelyn vanished earlier this month. Now, while this community comes together to grieve, 2 men sit in jail. They are charged with capital murder. So what do we know about them? They are in their 20s, and a lot of people in this community reeling from this bit of news. The U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Division says both entered the United States illegally earlier this year. Jocelyn's funeral will be a private ceremony, family grieving behind closed doors. Right now, we're learning of that community coming together. We know Americans do this. Get this, an anonymous person stepped forward to try and soften these days for Jocelyn's family. Said, I'll pay for every cent of the funeral expenses. You don't even have to say who I am. All right, we want to jump the map to South America, where Bolivian Army General Juan Jose Zuiga is under arrest today following a failed coup attempt. Look at this video. We just got it in from all of our video feeds on these monitors showing armored vehicles. Look at that. He's backing up to get a little bit of speed, then hits the gas and rams into this building. What's the building? It's an important one. It's Bolivia's government palace. We're actually told this rebellion lasted 3 hours. And also right now, we're getting word that a former Bolivian Navy admiral has also been caught and jailed. Chaos in Bolivia. This follows months of political and economic turmoil there. The U.S. National Security Council tells CBS they are watching closely because there are many Americans who live in that country, and they are urging calm and restraint. So let's come home and speak specifically to New York viewers in the Big Apple. And look at this. You are seeing damage from thunderstorms that smacked the tri-state area. It's already hot there. Now this, we're seeing trees uprooted in Queens, sidewalks buckled, damage all the way stretching into New Jersey. The result? Well, thousands of you in that area may be watching us by battery power right now. You are without electricity because of the storms. Travel impacts as well, so listen up if you are planning to fly in or out of New York or New Jersey. We're watching in real time, and actually we are seeing that some airports are reporting delays. And this shows, Jess, that when news happens in the weather, it's news to people. You're also watching how people are dealing with the heat.
Oh, it's been a hot one out there for many people all throughout the Midwest this week. But now we're keeping our eyes specifically on the South and, of course, Texas, too, where daytime highs today are feeling a lot hotter than where we should be during this time of year. Let's dive straight into the map on the ground. I want to show you our temperatures widespread throughout our country on a day like today, where temperatures are above average, whether you live in Texas, New Mexico, all the way over into Arizona or Las Vegas, too. Today, we're sitting in the 90s and triple digits all throughout those regions. Los Angeles today comfortable at 73 degrees. However, we're really wanting to focus on spots like Dallas. Once again, dealing with upper 90s, close to triple digits in the forecast for us today. And within the forecasted models throughout the next couple days, Dallas is going to be a hot spot for us. Houston as well, as this area of high pressure directly above them is continuing to amplify. Take a look right behind me. Heading into the next couple days, we're going to continue to watch that area of high pressure. You see it right there on the map, slowly sweep more over the state of Texas. Why does this matter? Well, we're leading into the next coming days, close to 4th of July weekend right around the corner. And right now, heat advisories and warnings are still in effect for areas like Dallas and Houston as we extend into these afternoon hours today. Now, the heat risk map is showing this widespread throughout the state of Louisiana, Mississippi, stretching down into the Florida Panhandle too. And throughout the next 6 to 10 days, well, the Climate Prediction Center is showing well above normal temperatures all throughout the South. So we're going to keep a close eye on this heat, especially as many Americans, thousands and thousands of Americans, are going to be traveling around, gearing up for the holiday weekend. For now, over to you, Reed.
Jess, let's go back to that breaking news out of Matteson, Illinois. That's just south of Chicago. This is now a ground shot not far from where a train derailment happened. Why are we showing you police in the middle of the street around homes? Well, it's because those police are very busy right now telling people to get out after this train derailment. We have an opportunity to listen in to what our CBS partners were able to tell their viewers breaking the news just a moment ago. Let's get to that.
Good afternoon. I'm Marisa Vedra bringing you breaking news out of Matteson. It's Chopper 2 right now is over the scene of a train derailment. There you see it. These are live pictures coming in from the southeast part of Matteson. You're looking at the train derailment that was a CN, Canadian National Railway train. Those tracks running through a significant portion of that area. We're going to work on that shot and bring you more pictures later. But we want to let you know that at this point, they believe that this happened around 10:30 this morning. No clues as to why the train derailed. No reports of injuries at this moment. There is concern that this possibly could be a hazmat situation, so that's why they are ruling it that as right now. We want to show you, because of the hazmat situation, there is a mandatory evacuation order for Matteson, and you're seeing this post from the Village on your screen right now. That evacuation zone 1 mile south of Main Street and 217th, then it stretches 1 mile west of the scene of Main Street, and then a quarter mile east of Main Street. That is the evacuation zone. To get specific, you'll see you there. It's Main Street from the tracks south to Sauk Trail, 218th Street and 218th Place also being asked to evacuate, Charles Street as well. We are hearing from the spokesperson of the Village of Matteson that they are asking people to prepare as if this could be a long-term evacuation. There you see first responders on the scene near those train tracks. They're telling people who live in those areas to plan to be out of their homes for some time. They're hoping that's not the case, but should it be a long-term evacuation, they're telling people to make all the necessary calls, pack your medication, plan for the worst-case scenario should it be a while before people get back into their homes. Again, no reason why given yet about this train derailment. No doubt the NTSB will be on scene investigating this.
You know, to really land this, that is what this broadcast is all about, as we see that train derailment. It's an opportunity to bring our communities closer together and really punctuate through the lens and through the view and the eyes of our partners with our various stations across the country, that they are able to talk to their viewers and show us what's happening to our neighbors in other states. We'll continue watching this train derailment close to Chicago, coast to coast, And streaming worldwide, you are watching CBS News 24/7. Breaking news from these monitors when I come back. All right, I want to get you back to video coming from Central Oregon. Take a look at this. This is video coming to us of a fire called the Darlene Fire. It's near Lapine. If you don't know where that is, it's about 200 miles outside of Portland. Focusing in here on our video, you can see that this one is causing people to have to fight it from the sky. Some steep terrain, and look, the fire is answering back with some pretty angry plumes of smoke. We can tell you this one started quickly Tuesday, and because of hot temperature and strong winds through these pines, this one is now at 2,600 acres. You can see firefighters posting pictures of just their trucks looking small against the backdrop of that smoke. This fire story, like so many others, is a people story. We can tell you fire crews are looking at level 3 go now evacuation. So what is that? We can just boil it to the bones and tell you families are being told just get out, grab what you can and run. So we're going to continue following that story. It's the same story for people who found themselves on the run from a fire in Southern California. Right here on the monitor, you're looking at the Columbia fire. This one was hungry. It ate up land and threatened homes in rural North Los Angeles County. It sparked, as likely you and I were wrapping up our day Wednesday, and then overnight, winds kicked up. It burned nearly 388 acres once again. They're having to fight that one from the sky as well. That's a help for firefighters. Imagine how hot it is down there on the fire lines. High temperatures, heavy gear, difficult fight. Dry conditions in California, those high temperatures really make it difficult for firefighters doing battle there. We'll watch that one and continue coming back to breaking news as it happens coast to coast and streaming worldwide. You are watching CBS News 24/7. We'll have live video in just a moment as the president and the former president prepare to square off tonight. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Welcome back. I'm watching these monitors for that breaking news out of Matteson, Illinois. It's just south of Chicago. At least 20 rail cars on their sides and at least one reportedly leaking a substance. There are evacuation orders in place right now. So let's listen in to the live coverage of CBS News Chicago.
We want the residents are encouraged to contact their emergency departments for further instructions. But to your point, there has been report of some substance of some sort. CN is on the scene. This is their rail line. They're responsible for that particular part of the investigation. Our fire department and police are to assist there. But the mayor's office have gone into emergency mode to evacuate the area, and we're doing everything possible to do so.
Sean, for those who are not familiar with Matteson, can you explain to me where these tracks are in relation to neighborhoods or downtown so we get a sense of how close to residential areas this is?
Well, the Metro main line, their main line that runs directly through the Southland, comes through Olympia Fields, Matteson, Flousmore. So it's directly in the middle of our town, and it's surrounded by residential areas, and that's the reason for the order. So there are a lot of neighboring communities there. There are schools there, and we're thankful that the summer recess is now in session, so we don't have that particular issue, but we have residents who are elderly, and we're just asking them to dial 911 for any assistance necessary. So to your point, there are in close proximity, there are residential homes near that track.
It's a stunning scene. Sean Howard with the Village of Matteson, thank you so much for taking the time to share that important information. We'll certainly be gathering more from him and other village leaders throughout the day. Stay with us for any press conference that may come or further updates from...
All right, we've been listening into live coverage of people talking in Illinois, Chicago, talking about that train derailment in Matteson, Illinois, at least 20 cars on their side. And you just heard the spokesperson for that town saying that that train cuts right through the town, and so people are being told to evacuate. We'll continue to watch that story throughout the hour. But now to a big debate tonight between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump. It will be in Atlanta for the first presidential debate of 2024. And our chief CBS election and campaign correspondent, Robert Costa, is here with more on what we can expect. All right, good afternoon. Tell us what you are seeing by way of preparations, not only in Atlanta, but preparations in the two camps that will go head-to-head tonight.
It's great to be with you. Based on my reporting, I expect a quiet night. No, I'm just joking. This is going to be a high-stakes night. Not so quiet, though. It's interesting. When I'm talking to sources close to former President Trump, there's a real debate inside his inner circle about whether he should be on low simmer tonight, be, as he calls it privately, being presidential versus being feisty with President Biden, because many inside of Trump's campaign believe he paid a political cost for interrupting President Biden at that almost infamous first debate back in 2020. So really keep an eye on Trump tonight. Does he start out a little bit more deliberative? Is he a bit more conversational with the moderators, with President Biden? Or does he go, rhetorically speaking, for that knockout punch early? President Biden, meanwhile, he knows all eyes are on him and his performance. He's 81 years old. At the same time, I'm told he really wants to make a point on the economy. He wants to make sure working voters believe he's on their side, that he's trying to get more jobs in this country. He's also going to bring up January 6th and American democracy and maybe even Trump's criminal conviction. That's all a way of trying to tell voters that he believes Trump doesn't have the character necessary to be president.
All right, and we are looking right now at video of the president at Joint Air Force Base Andrews. Let's talk about what is happening at the Supreme Court today. We got that major ruling on the Idaho case. How high will abortion play in the debate tonight?
It's going to be very high in the debate. It might not be the first question, but because of this Supreme Court ruling today, abortion rights, which is already front and center in this campaign, is certainly going to be a big part of this debate. Why is that? It's because former President Trump has said he's happy to leave the abortion question up to the states after Roe v. Wade was overturned. But he's been somewhat vague about what he really feels about abortion rights, how far Republicans should push on a federal level, if at all, for any sort of abortion ban or restrictions on reproductive rights. So look for the moderators to push Trump to be a little bit more specific about his views, and look for President Biden to keep hitting this issue. Because Democrats know, and people inside the White House tell me, that abortion rights drives Democratic turnout. So the more Biden can talk about this, bring it into the spotlight, the better Democrats think he'll be.
All right, and we know you will have full analysis throughout the afternoon and the evening. We're going to even keep you committed for tomorrow. Thank you so much, Robert. We appreciate you. And to our viewers at home, remember CBS News has you covered for the debate tonight. Our coverage begins at 8 Eastern with a debate simulcast that is happening at 9. Okay, so I touched on this a little bit. You know what is definitely going to be a talker between President Joe Biden and former President Trump? It's what we just mentioned, the issue of abortion. And that's because we have breaking news about the high court's ruling on that very big Idaho abortion case. Joining us now, CBS News chief legal correspondent Jan Crawford. Okay, so we had a preview in that accidental post yesterday. Now it is out officially. How does this shape the conversation not only from the Supreme Court, but tonight at the debates?
Well, I mean, I thought Bob made a great point, right? I mean, this is obviously going to be front and center at the debate because the issue of abortion is front and center in races across the country, all the way up and down the tickets, for other offices beyond the office of the presidency. So, I mean, I think what is one thing that's kind of good for Trump and good for Biden both is the Supreme Court today kind of just punted. And they did it in a way that had 5 justices coming together, coalition of conservatives and liberals, coming together to say the court should not have gotten involved in this issue in Idaho. And we're going to give it back to the lower courts and keep this injunction in place in the lower courts that allows these abortions in emergency situations where a woman's health is at serious risk. Those can continue. So, the court has kind of kicked it down the road and done exactly what the Biden administration had asked the court to do, which is not get involved in this case, let the lower courts decide. And so that's the outcome today. So, on the ruling itself, Reed, I mean, it's an important case. It'll come back up to the court presumably in another year or so. It's interesting, but it's kind of a mixed bag. But that won't matter. They're not going to be talking about the finer points of this decision and what Justice Kagan said and what, Justice Jackson said and what Justice Alito said. This is all politics. And the issue of abortion is something I think Democrats, and you'll see tonight, President Biden really trying to use to his advantage and as Bob said, put Trump on the spot. Because remember, 3 of these justices who voted to overturn Roe versus Wade, Donald Trump put on the Supreme Court.
Trump, we know we're still waiting for that blockbuster ruling on the question of presidential immunity. What I've thought the last few days, Jan, that the justices would be really good television news writers because they know how to keep us in suspense and really keep the tension up. Any idea, any word in Washington as to whether they're literally going to make us wait until the last day?
Well, no, because, you know, as you said, they like to drag it out, keep us in suspense, despite the unfortunate, publishing that opinion and then taking it down yesterday by accident. I don't think we're going to get so lucky for the rest of the cases. They did announce we will have decisions tomorrow and on Monday, and I don't think that Monday will be the last day of the term. So they're going to go into next week as they decide some of these major issues, including, like you said, those 2 cases involving former President Trump, whether he can be prosecuted for his actions around January 6th or whether he has some kind of immunity from prosecution. And then there's another case with Trump. If he is not immune and he can be prosecuted, what can he be prosecuted for? I mean, those are major issues that will have a direct impact on whether or not the special counsel here, Jack Smith, can prosecute Trump potentially before the election, which is what he's trying to do, Reed.
All right, so a virtual handshake and an agreement between both of us. We know in the next coming days you will be there. I'm going to hold you to that, my friend. I always love your analysis. Okay, thank you so much, Jan. Let's talk about what's going on across the Midwest right now. Word that farmers are experiencing the devastation of ruined crops due to flooding. Meteorologist Jessica Birch watching that.
Absolutely. And as we extend into the next couple of days, the big concern comes with more rain in the forecast for us. All throughout the Midwest, we're gearing up for heavier showers. And keep in mind, it was just 2 days ago we were talking about the National Guard getting activated in states like Minnesota, with heavy flooding still happening right now. Down into Iowa, we're also keeping a close eye on that as these storms start to build just over them. So with that in mind, let's dive into what's happening for us. Within the past 12 hours, we've seen heavier storms sweep throughout Nebraska, the Dakotas, and we're continuing to watch these storms go off into the east, closer to Iowa, where they're still battling heavy flooding conditions right now. Now, the Storm Prediction Center has put out a severe weather outlook, and currently there's an enhanced risk over states like the Dakotas, as well as Nebraska, stretching down into Kansas, a slight risk there. But watch the storm really unfurl as it moves its way over into Iowa into the overnight hours tonight, early morning hours tomorrow. There's still many community members dealing with heavy flooding in their local homes, their communities, and this is what they're going to be facing, that inconvenience of more heavy showers sweeping through. And this is thunderstorm activity as well that continues to move off into the east all throughout our Friday forecast. That's the big weather story for us right now. And on top of that, the National Weather Service has issued flood advisories and watches all throughout the Mississippi, the Missouri, and of course the Sioux River too, where flooding concerns are huge right now in those local communities. We'll have more on that in a bit. Reed?
All right, when it happens in your community, we are there, coast to coast and streaming worldwide. You're watching video coming to us minute by minute. Your stories, your nation. CBS News 24/7. We'll be right back. CBS News 24/7, and we want to continue the coverage out of Matteson, Illinois, outside of Chicago. A train derailment, some 20 cars on their side, now worried that there's a leak. There are some evacuation orders in place right now in that very small town. We want to go right now to our CBS partners in Chicago who are talking in real time to reporters who are now on the ground during the evacuations. Let's listen in.
This is breaking news from CBS 2.
Good afternoon. I'm Marisa Vedra with more information now on our breaking news of a train derailment, happening around 10:30 this morning in the area of Matteson. This is a CN train, and we understand with confirmation from that carrier that 20 rail cars were involved in this derailment. We understand they were carrying various substances. No further details than that. Crews on scene are warning this could be a hazmat situation, but there's a lot of caution involved. CBS 2's Suzanne Lemonnier just arrived on scene a short time ago. Suzanne, what have you learned?
Maria, at this moment, no reports of injuries. We do know this, though. Areas that are evacuating right now. We're told the area 1 mile south of Main Street and 217th. Also 1 mile west of Main Street and also a quarter mile east of Main Street. Again, those are the areas that are evacuating at the moment. Again, to reiterate something you just shared, we just learned moments ago, CN Rail telling us that there are 20 rail cars involved in this incident. We've also learned that, again, there they're carrying various substances. Now, as you take an aerial view here, what we're seeing that in terms of the derailment, we know that there is possibly at least one car that is leaking. That is per Sean Howard, the spokesperson for Matteson. We've also been told that crews have been individually checking every single rail car here to make sure there is no serious leak in terms of what is coming from these rail cars, potentially because of the substances on board. Again, we don't know what these various substances are, but again, they are checking each rail car as a precaution. To avoid this area, you should use Governor Highway as your alternate. We have many crews here setting up. We're also learning there could be possibly a news conference soon, so we will keep you informed as more information becomes available. In Matteson, Suzanne Lemignot, CBS 2 News.
All right, and so we continue to watch from that helicopter shot those trains derailed there. This is in an area that is right in the middle of a village outside of Chicago, not huge and densely populated, but definitely a small community, and those communities matter to our coverage when news happens. So evacuation's playing out right now. You know, it looks like transportation is emerging as a theme of this broadcast today. We're also watching moves by our nation's transportation bosses right now. Word that the NTSB has sanctioned airline manufacturer Boeing today. Why? Well, apparently Boeing's disclosure of non-public details to the press amid the ongoing investigation into that January 5 Alaska Airlines mid-air emergency, where that plane blew out mid-air, terrified a lot of passengers, and that's what this is all about. The NTSB not happy about that disclosure to the media. In fact, they're saying it blatantly violated that agency's investigative regulations by giving information to the media. And they're feeling this caused speculation about the causes of that Alaska case, with the investigation still ongoing. So what's the teeth to this sanction? Boeing will no longer have access to information to the agency. They will no longer have sort of an advanced view of what is going to be happening as that agency asks questions. Boeing says they don't like that. They say this denies them the chance to ask questions of other participants at a hearing later this summer. I want to get you out to Alton, Illinois, and we have new surveillance video. You have got to see this, showing the dramatic moment. I'm going to turn here and show it to you in real time. That a massive sinkhole opened up beneath a soccer field. It happened on Wednesday. You see the dust and debris flying in the air there. A light pole swallowed up. Let's do it again. Re-cue it, and you can see this in real time. There's the light pole, 1 minute, and then the next minute, a hole opens up. There it goes, 100 feet wide. Wow. Our CBS partners say that this hole formed perhaps because of some sort of a mining collapse. You know, keep in mind, this is a place where kids typically play in the summertime. So thankfully, those tables were empty. No children were on the field at the time that that sinkhole opened up. Fascinating to see there out of Alton. All right, so we're going to continue throughout the hour and throughout the broadcast watching what's going on, not only with the presidential debates, not only with that terrible train derailment, also plane crash out of Dallas, but also we are going to be continuing to follow the evacuations and the investigation about that sinkhole. Before we head to break, we're going to take a live look from one of these monitors. We'll see you tomorrow, same place, same time.